All right. Hey everybody, Stacy James here with Just Spooling Around, and this is going to be an entirely different video than what you're used to seeing from me. I'm actually going to be doing this completely raw and unfiltered, no editing, so zero production value at all in this video. So if you like that part of my videos, I apologize. I also want to preface with an apology because I have a bit of a potty mouth, and sometimes I work really hard, to not cuss or, use any curse words, but I might slip, so please forgive me. I'm not a bad person. I don't know. I just have a potty mouth sometimes. So anyway, what I'm doing here today is I'm working with this 3 centimeter yarn that I got quite a while ago actually. And it's so pretty. It's such a pretty color. But I'm going to do my version of the scalloped cable. There are a couple ladies that I am in a group with. They're amazing women, and they do this cable quite often, and I'm like, I need to do this cable. So I'm gonna do it here for you today. And I'm just gonna be starting with a chain of 34. Now, this is 3 centimeters. You would probably want to begin with a chain of 39 if you're working with the 2 centimeter yarn. And I want to forewarn you also here that I'm gonna go a little fast, so it's not gonna be, like a complete beginner level. If you are a beginner, you'll want to watch my beginner chunky blanket video that should be popping up here on the right pretty soon. But I'm still going to put into practice the things that I have in those videos, of course, because that's how I've learned to knit and, perfect my craft. So I'm just going to be knitting away here, and with this scalloped cable, we're going to be working in multiples of 5 plus 4. So what that means is we will have 5 stitches. 4 stitches will be the actual cable, and then the extra stitch after the cable is going to be a purl stitch. So a purl stitch will be between each cable that we work. This is really easy. And if you've been knitting for a little while and you want to move on to something a little more fun, I'm telling you, cabling is not as difficult as it looks. It's beautiful and it's easy, okay? So don't be afraid to give it a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised once you get started at just how easy it is, okay? I have no idea how many chains I have yet here. Also, let's get back to the pattern here. So I guess I'll show you once I keep going along. You can see I'm using 4 fingers here for my chains. This is such big, thick yarn. Everything's bigger, loops, everything, which is hard for me because I'm super tight knitter. So this is really uncomfortable for me, but I just love, I'm telling you, if you have the opportunity to get some 3 centimeter chenille, I highly recommend, because it is just a dream to work with. It's just so fluffy and soft. It does have a bit of a different texture. It doesn't seem as heavy as a 2 centimeter for some reason. I don't know why, because it's thicker, right? Doesn't make sense, but it is. It's just so seems more pliable, I guess. And maybe that's probably because I'm knitting so loose, so big, but you have to with this because otherwise it just, you know, it's just so big, so you have to. All right, I have no idea how many chains, so I better count my chains here. Let's see. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, look at that. I've got 2 extra. All right, so I'm gonna take that out, make that one a little bit smaller, right? So we always have our edge stitches just a little bit smaller. So that's a 3-finger tight there. And I'm gonna leave it like that. Again, I'm gonna turn my chain over, and on this first row will be my setup row for the cable. So I'm just gonna knit all the way across through these back humps. Now remember, if you have trouble finding your back hump, all you do is follow the bottom leg here. Once you have your chain turned over upside down, you follow the bottom leg of the current stitch. So this is my first stitch. I'm skipping this stitch, okay, because it's going to become the first stitch in my row 1, okay? So it couples as the last chain on the foundation chain and the first stitch on the first row. So here's my current stitch, and I'm gonna go under the following, or the previous leg, or the leg of the previous chain. I get tongue-tied a lot. Anyway, okay. This is why I don't like to go unfiltered and raw. Anyway, so again, we're following this under, and there it is. It's just right there. So as long as you just follow that under, you'll always have the right strand of yarn, or the right leg of the yarn, because there's this bottom leg, the top leg, and what I like to call the hump. It's the center leg, you know, but you can see they kind of just pop up as little humps. So here we go. I'm just going to see, I'm even making these quite a bit bigger than I normally do in my beginner video, but I'm still going to make sure that my tension is taken care of. So I'm really minimizing how much slack I have between my stitches, which causes my foundation chain to curl. Okay, so I guess these are about 2 fingers. You would probably do just 1 finger, or whatever you like, whatever works for you. This is just what works for me. So you do you, I'll do me, and we'll be happy. We'll just go along. Okay. I really wanted to go live actually, but I don't know really how advantageous that is, because it doesn't seem like too many people really are interested in the live stuff. So that's why I thought, well, I'm so busy right now. I don't have time to do all the production value and editing of a project, you know, for the how-tos or whatever. So, but I'm doing a lot of knitting, you know, and I was like, I need to find some way to be able to have some videos. Well, this is how I'm doing it. It's gonna be probably, I can't cut anything out. Speed anything up or slow anything down for you, so sorry about that. But I'll go, I guess, as long as I mean, I'm definitely not gonna finish the blanket, unfortunately, but you'll get the idea with the pattern. And if you need to know how to bind off, again, you just watch my beginner video, as that has pretty much everything in it, okay? So let me show you real quick, because you can kind of see things are getting mucky. You can see here, oh, that's because I don't have it turned over all the way, which happens when you have a really long foundation chain. So here's my current stitch. I have to lift that up because I just stitched this right here. So that's my current stitch that I worked, following the bottom leg and up through to get my next hump. Okay. Alrighty. I may have some dogs barking in the background. My husband did take them downstairs with him, so he is trying to help me out there, but you know, they just like to wander and they love to bark. I have 2 little Yorkies, and what can you do? What do you do? If anybody has any suggestions or advice on how to train them, we've tried. I bought this app. Like, I subscribed to this app on a monthly basis. I had to cancel because it just, I mean, I was getting nowhere with it, but it was trying to tell me all these different things to do to try to get them to stop barking and train them to not bark, and just, it didn't work. I don't know if I'm just bad at it or if they're just crazy barkers. All right. So now on row 2, I am actually going to begin crossing stitches. Now, I know I did small stitches here, and they're gonna be longer going forward, but I like to have the cable beginning closer to the foundation chain rather than knitting like 5 or 6 rows before I do the crossing. So that's how I do my cabling a little bit different. And what that does is it gives it more of a pop up along the foundation chain. So I am going to there's no extra stitches on the edges for like a salvage edge. So there's no just knit stitch and then you start with your cable pattern. We're starting our cable pattern right at the very first stitch on every row. So these 4 stitches here are going to be part of our first cable. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the 5th stitch, this one here, is gonna be a purl stitch, okay? And then we're gonna start all over and go all the way to the end, but we'll only have 4 stitches left. So again, our cable will be worked at the end, all the way to the edge, okay? So that's why we have, I'll be doing 6 cables. So that's 5 times 5 is, I'm sorry, I'll be doing 7 cables. Am I doing 7? I might be doing 7. Oh, yeah, I'm doing 7. So 5 times 6 is 30 stitches. And then the extra 4 is the 34. Okay, so it'll be 7 cables in my example. Anyway, so what we're gonna do, depending on how you want your cable to lean, you can either have a left leaning cable or you can have a right leaning cable. If you want a left leaning cable, you've got to have the stitches crossing in the front going to the left. If you want a right leaning cable, the stitches that you're crossing need to go to the right, okay? So that would be these 2 stitches would have to cross over these 2 stitches, okay? And things are gonna get really wonky down here, but don't worry, it'll all spread out, I promise. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do a left leaning cable. So I am going to grab my 2 stitches here, and I'm gonna bring them to the very front here and just let it shrink up, okay? And here I'm going to be doing about 3 fingers. You'll probably do about 2 fingers, maybe. I might be doing 4. I don't want to do 4. I'll do 3, kind of loosey goosey. Okay, and then I've got to knit this second stitch too here. So it's really important to use your fingers because it helps you maintain consistency with your stitches. Now we've got to find our 2 little stitches hanging out back here, and we're going to knit them in the order that they present from left to right, because that's how we're working. So I've got to bring this first stitch up here, right? And I'm going to knit that stitch. And then I have to bring that second stitch that we skipped. Where are you, little stitch? There it is. Nope. Hold on. There it is. Sorry. There's that stitch. And okay, nope, that's not it. Hold on. Okay, so here's a little trick. I like to hold my stitches in my fingers like this so that I don't lose where they are. And I know that I'm gonna knit this one first, then this one second, okay? So if I don't, and actually, sorry, wrong hand, this hand, I'm gonna do that with. So makes it a lot easier. Here we go. So now I'm gonna knit. Okay, I forgot a minute how I do this. There we go. And then we're going to knit this next one. So now we have our first crossover of stitches, and it looks a little wonky, but you'll be fine. You'll be able, trust me, once we get going here, it is going to all even out. Now that I have crossed my first set of cable stitches, I'm going to then bring my yarn forward and I'm going to purl this next stitch. There, so here is my purl stitch. Okay, and I'm gonna do about 3 fingers there. All right, so there we go. Now I'm gonna put my yarn in the back again, and I'm going to do that all over again, okay? So we're working 5 stitches at a time. The first 4 are the cable stitches. I'm crossing to the left. I want a left leaning cable, so I need to grab these 2 stitches. I'm going to grab these 2 actually, like this, okay, with my right hand. And then I'm gonna grab these 2 stitches with my left, and I'm gonna cross them. So I'm just trading places with them, okay? Now, I am going to just knit all 4 of these stitches in the order they are in, according to how I've crossed them. Okay, and again, it's wonky. The hardest part of cabling is going to be just keeping your stitches straight, like in terms of where they are. But as long as you just kind of, you understand how your chain works and which way the chain is flowing, where the braid is going, you'll be fine, okay? I promise. All right, so now we've worked our second cable. We're going to then come to our next stitch, bring our yarn forward, and we're going to purl that next stitch. And we've just completed our second stitch repeat. Okay. And put it back, and we're doing it all over again. So I'm going to grab these 2 stitches with my right hand. I'm going to grab the next 2 stitches with my left, and I'm going to cross my left over my right. Okay. Now I just kind of trade places here with my finger. I take the second one on that crossover because I know where the first one is. This really helps keep track of your stitches so you don't drop a stitch, okay? Which is super important when doing cable work. So here we've got that. Now we're going to knit that stitch. I apologize if this is hard to see. I hope it's not too bad. I can't zoom. I won't be, can't be doing any zooming because I'm not editing. Now I'm knitting these back stitches. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to, again, on this 5th stitch, bring our yarn forward and purl into that 5th stitch. Okay, and bring our yarn back to the back of the work. And again, we've got our next 4 stitches here. Can you see those? Let's see. 1, I know they're teeny tiny. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to grab these first 2 with my left hand, or my left fingers, and then with my right hand I'm going to grab onto the next 2 stitches, and we'll cross left over right. And don't be afraid to pull on that yarn. It's not going to hurt it. All right, so we want to make sure that, again, I'm going to grab this front, the 2nd stitch of the front cable, and I'm going to make sure that where the yarn is exiting my previous stitch is super close to the entrance of my knit stitch on this first cable stitch. Then I'm going to do the second cable stitch. Okay, now I've got my 2 fingers back here, so I know where my stitches are. Trust me, this is a very helpful tip on doing cable work, especially starting off the foundation chain. You probably won't have to do this once, well, you don't, I don't believe you have to do this once you get a little further into it. It's just on the foundation chain that you've got to do this to keep them straight, okay? Now, this next stitch is our 5th stitch, so we're going to bring the yarn forward and we're going to purl that stitch and start all over again. So here we have our 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4 as part of our cable, okay? And I'm going to grab these 2 stitches here with my right hand. Then I'm going to grab the next 2 stitches with my left, and I'm going to cross them over, cross my hands. I'm going to grab my 2nd cable stitch with my index finger on my right hand, and then I'm going to get my previous stitch lined up with this first stitch. Make sure that I minimize that slack between these 2 stitches. Really very important with cabling. You'll end up with holes between stitches if you don't keep that slack managed properly, okay? And then knitting that 2nd one in the front. Now I've got my stitches here in the back, and I'm going to again bring that up to where it exits the previous stitch to minimize that slack. And I'm going to do that again with the 2nd stitch in the back. So our cable stitches are done, and we've got to purl our next stitch. So we're going to bring the yarn forward, bring it right where it exits that previous stitch to reduce the slack, and then we're going to purl and then put it back. We've completed one more set in the stitch pattern. So now we've got 4 more stitches that we need to do, that we need to utilize for or use for our cable. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, I'm going to grab these 2 stitches with my right hand. Then I'm going to grab the next 2 stitches with my left, and I'm going to cross my left hand back over my right to get on the right side of things. Okay, I'm going to place that second front cable stitch on my index finger on my right hand, and then I'm going to, I guess I place this first one on my thumb, and then I'm going to make sure I draw it in right where that yarn exits the previous stitch to minimize the slack, and draw up my loop. Okay, now I'm going to knit my second front cable stitch, and now I need to knit my 2 back cable stitches, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Bring it up, and I'm going to minimize that slack, and again doing the same thing with that second back cable stitch to complete the cable. And then I'm going to bring my yarn forward to purl the next stitch in our stitch sequence. Okay, now I should only have 4 stitches left, because again we want the cable to run all the way along the edge, and that's what makes it scalloped, and you'll see how pretty that is here in a minute. Now, so before I do that, because we're going to be working with our chain here, I have to turn this, because remember from my beginner video that when you knit into that first back hump, it kind of twists this. So we want to twist it to make sure that that top leg is the one going over the bottom leg to keep it uniform. Okay, and I'm going to, now I've got that the way I need it, and I'm going to grab my first 2 stitches that will be crossed behind the next 2 stitches, and I'm going to cross them over one another. I'm going to take my edge stitch in my with my index finger on my right hand, place the first stitch on my thumb, and bring it right where it exits that previous stitch, and draw up my loop. Then I'm going to knit my edge stitch here, and then I'm going to come back to my 2 back cable stitches and knit them as well. And we have just completed the cable row, and as you can see, this has really shrunk up, okay, and it looks really wonky, but I promise you it's as long as you just keep going. You just really got to pay attention to your stitches, okay, and kind of not really stretch them out, but you kind of got to fan them out a little bit, I guess. And you'll see that as you fan them out, they'll be in place, okay? Right. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to knit the next 5 rows, okay? Or am I knitting the next 6 rows? Let me think. So I've crossed my stitch on 2, 3, 4, sorry guys, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Yeah, 5. 5, I'm gonna knit 5. Sorry, I had to count. I'm going to knit 5 rows. Okay, so here's 1 row. And again, I'm just kind of gonna fan this out. Oh, I gotta make sure I do 3 fingers here because I'll forget. And then I just do like 2, I don't do too small here, but let's do that a little bit bigger. Okay, and we can see here that this is the next stitch right here. So we're just going to knit, and then if we kind of fan this out, okay, I know it's kind of wonky, but there's no stitches between here, right? So we see that this is the next stitch. And you always kind of want to be looking in the back to make sure you're not missing any stitches when, especially on that first pass after the crossover on the cable work, okay? So we'll just keep knitting. And see, there's that one. They like to hide out back there. We don't want that. We don't want to miss any stitches. So it's kind of why we keep kind of going back and forth, and you fan these out and you can see that they just kind of come into place. It's kind of easier actually if you turn it over and look at it from the back, to be honest. You know, if you find it easier to do it from the front, that's fine too. So no counting really involved in terms of, because we're just knitting right across. And I've already, with this 3 centimeter, I've already run out of yarn on my 3rd row, so I'm gonna have to get a new. I'm gonna have to get a new hank. This is a hank. And I just have to cut off these ties. Real quick. This doesn't take too long. Okay, you can see some color, discolor. Some of the color doesn't get done where those ties are, but no biggie, because that's just the edge anyway. So now I am going to start a new ball of yarn here, and oops, look at that one. Make sure so this is the next stitch that I need to do, and I am just going to tie this together, make sure that they don't come apart. I do my finishing work at the end. As you may already know if you watch my other videos. All right, so here we go. We're gonna continue to knit our first of 5 rows after the cable. Okay, there's our 2 front cables. Right here. That's a back one. These are the front, okay? I know this looks all very confusing right now, but you'll see very soon how this all is going to just kind of stretch out, okay? There we go. Okay, there we go. We see that's the next stitch here. It will go much faster. The beginning is a little slow moving because you just want to be careful, extra cautious about where your stitches are so you don't miss any stitches, okay? But you will whip through this in no time once you get past these first few rows here. Okay. If you guys are interested in a live video, so basically what that means is you join while I am live and you can ask questions, we can kind of have conversations, doing stuff. I think one reason I don't have too many people coming is because I haven't scheduled the past few ones that I've done. So I should probably, you know, schedule it, let people know when I'm doing one, so they can plan for it. But if you are interested, comment in the video below. And, you know, down below, and I'll consider doing more live videos kind of like this where we're learning a new pattern. Okay. All right, and we are coming to the end of our cable, or of our row. You can see that already it's kind of starting to stretch out a little bit, okay? You don't want to pull on it too much right now. Just kind of leave it wonky like it is, and then we're going to continue on working the next row, row 2 of our 5 rows that we're going to knit before we start our cable work again, okay? So again, I'm just gonna knit, just gonna keep knitting. And as you can see, it's a lot easier to see where those next stitches are. Okay. Oh, and you know what I did? Do you know what I did wrong, guys? Anybody? Anybody know what I did wrong? I'm not supposed to knit all the way across. Look at this. I have to rip this all out. See, this is where editing comes in handy, because I make mistakes especially when I'm talking and not concentrating on what I'm doing. I'm terrible about that. I'm not the best multitasker, I have to admit. So sorry about that, everybody. If you know what I missed, you're amazing and good on you. But I'm going to tell you what I missed right now. So we don't knit all the way across because we've got a purl stitch coming between every cable. So we have to knit all our cable stitches, which is 4, and then we purl that 5th stitch. Okay, so let's do that all over again, shall we? Let's see. So there we go. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, there's our cable and our stitch in the back. We're going to bring our yarn forward and purl that stitch. Now I do make that one a little bit smaller than I make the rest of the stitches because I like the puckering that this does when you make this a little bit smaller, okay? Just my personal preference. So that purl stitch is always going to be smaller than the knit stitches that I do. And again, we're going to knit 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. There we go. I hope that didn't go out of view. I'm fairly close. Camera is fairly close. I'm trying to keep, I need to stop moving. I keep moving from side to side. I gotta stop doing that because then I'm gonna go out of view for you guys, I think. So hopefully I didn't go out of view. But you'll notice that since I already knit that row, it's a lot easier now to see those stitches. It's not so discombobulated and wonky. So there we go. Okay. What stitch am I at? There we go. I've got a purl stitch next. So I'm going to purl that stitch. I'm going to draw it in real close. Remember where it exits, and I'm going to make that stitch it's a little bit smaller. And I'm going to knit the next 4 stitches. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I have a purl stitch right here. So I'm going to purl that stitch just a little bit smaller. Okay, tighter than what I do with these. Definitely tighter. Okay, and then I'm going to knit the next 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to purl that stitch in the back. Purl that purl stitch. Knit the next 4 cable stitches. There's 1. Fan it out, remember. Okay. 2, 3. And with cabling, you do make your stitches a little bit bigger than you normally do when you just knit because of the crossover. The crossover shrinks up your width, but you also need to have a little bit bigger stitches to make it softer. Okay, and then we'll purl that stitch there. So now I'm going to knit the next 4 stitches. It's 1, 2. I've got my 2 front cables. There's 3 and 4. And then we've got this little guy hanging out in the back. As you can see, that twisted, right? Okay, you gotta, that's why it's really important to understand your foundation chain so that you're not twisting your foundation chain as you work. So you gotta make sure that it's nice and you know exactly how it's not, no twisting, okay, no twisting of the chain. Purl stitches next. That's why it's a little, it's helpful to have a bit of hand knitting experience before you start cabling, so that you kind of know what you're looking at with your stitches, and learning, you know, what your stitches look like, learning the anatomy of your stitches and the chains and all that good stuff. All right, there we go. That was row 2 of our 5 that we're going to work, because I had to rip that out. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing. On the way back, we're going to knit 4 and purl 1. So I'm going to go a little faster here because as you can see, the stitches here, 1, 2, 3, and what did I do? Oh, look at that. I missed some stitches. See, guy, I tell ya. The heck? Okay, so there's that. And then I need 4. I have 4 stitches, yeah? Where are you? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what you're doing over here. Oh, that's part of that's my first chain. Okay, so that's what I mean. You kind of gotta really know what you're looking at here. That's my first chain there. Kind of is wrapping around because we're doing the scalloped version of the, what you call it? Oh gosh, you probably didn't see any of that. This is my first chain. I was wondering why this was all looking like a loop, because it was coming out, so I just had to tighten it up. But anyway, you can see it kind of curves, which is the effect of this, of working the cable along all the way to the edge. All right, so where am I? That's my tail. And here is my purl stitch, and I need 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 4 stitches. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't know, I probably just confused myself there. I don't know what the heck I did. But anyway, so now we're gonna, again, just do the same thing on the third. We just did our second of 5. Now it's the third of 5, where we knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1. I need to be over here. A little bit tighter on that purl stitch, and then we're going to knit 4, and purl that stitch in the back. Purl that little guy hiding out back there. And he's a little bit smaller. Okay, now I'm going to knit 4. Oh, don't you hate this? I do. I hate when there's knots to join the yarn, but I get it, you know. It helps keep, I mean, they have to do that. So I just untie it. I don't like knots. I don't trust a knot. I just don't. Not with this stuff anyway. All right, so we can see, got some wonky ends here. All right, let's see. I think I'll get a, I can get away, or am I gonna have to, I'm probably gonna have to, I think it's good, right? We're good, okay. And then this one, put this here. Okay, and again, if you burn, you know, you join however you want. I don't really cover that part because I think that's just a personal preference and how you decide. I use all methods, really, to be honest, when it comes to okay, I missed this little guy. Oh, oops, sorry, hold on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, shoot, that was my 5th stitch. So I have to bring that forward and purl. There we go. And again, I'm just gonna do that. But yeah, anyway, finishing work is really preferential. And I don't do it on blankets. I don't burn on blankets, but I do burn in some situations. I'm trying to think. Like when I do a duplicate stitch, I'll burn that together sometimes. But I typically sew. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, oh, there we go, 3 and 4. You can really see how these cables, you can see these 2 in the front, right? And then these 2 in the back. And then we have our little purl stitch hanging out back here in the back of the work. So there we go. And I'll knit the next 4 again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've got that purl stitch in the back, right? So we'll purl, making that a bit smaller. And then we're going to knit our cable stitches here. That was where I connected. You can see, we'll fan these out. And yep, that's the next one. That's a back crossing stitch. Oh no, that's a front, sorry. Here's the back crossing stitch. There's 3 and 4. And then we have our 1 purl stitch between the cables. And then we've got our last 4 cable stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now we are on our 4th, right? We're on our 4th row of knitting 4, purling 1. And now this row you can see is much easier. They're all kind of lining up, right? That purl stitch really still likes to hang out in the back, so you do have to pay attention to that one. And that's how you want it actually. You know, you want that to kind of hide out because it really makes these pucker up. Around that knit stitch, which is really pretty. Okay. Oh, there. Okay, those were the 2 back cable stitches, and here are the 2 front cable stitches, and then we have our purl stitch right behind there. Really minimize that slack on those stitches on this purl stitch between the cable work. Okay, here's 1. I think 1, 2, 3, and oh, did I do 4 already? 1, 2. Nope, I missed. Did I miss something? 1, 2, 3. Oh. Okay, what did I do? Oh, good Lord. Oh. One, 2, 3, 4. And 4 and purl, one, see, this is why I don't like to go unfiltered. No editing. 1, 2. I really have a hard time talking and paying attention to what the heck I'm doing. Oh, there it is. Okay, little guy's hanging out back there. Okay, so 4, and there's our 5th stitch with our purl. Okay, and now we've got 4 more cable stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we should have our purl stitch back here, which we do. Okay. Then we've got our next 4 cable stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've got our purl stitch, and the next 4 cable stitches. Got our 2 back cable stitches, and then we have our 2 front cable stitches, and then we have our purl stitch hanging out there in the back. And now we're going to knit the last cable. That's 4 stitches, 2, 3, and 4. Kind of see how this is wrapping around. Okay. All right, now this is our, is this our 5th? Or is this our 4th? Oh my goodness, see, I'm gonna have to count. So, let's see, we've got 1, 2, this is where we did our crossing on 2. So then 1, 2, 3. We're on number 4 right now. Okay, so here's our 4th pass. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry guys, I think I'm going out of view there. I gotta quit moving. I just keep moving myself instead of my work. Okay. So 1, 2, and you can see this is really much easier to see now. So if I wasn't talking, I would be whipping through this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to purl that next stitch. One, 2, 3, and 4, and then we got a purl. Just a little bit smaller. Actually, it's kind of a lot smaller. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I ran out already again. Okay, so I need a new thing of yarn. And anyway, I want to show you this real quick, but you can see that it's really, we can kind of stretch this foundation chain out now to see how it's coming along. Stretch that out. Let's see how that's working. There we go. And it's much longer now, and it will continue to kind of just stretch out as we go. You can see these cables really popping up, and I might, goodness, I might need to stitch a little bigger. Goodness, oh, I don't know if I can go any bigger. It's so uncomfortable to knit these big loops like this for me. Okay, so now I'm again cutting off my ties here. I love when that happens. Okay. Just make sure this is flowing freely, and it is. I need to find that last stitch. I worked, where is it? There it is. Okay. Here we go. This is the one I want. All right, so I'm just adding my new strand, connecting these so they stay put. There we go. All right, looks like we've got another cable stitch there, and now the next one is our nice little purl stitch back here. There we go. Again, make that a little bit smaller. It's a trick I've learned over the years. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, still gotta make these a bit bigger. Okay. And then I'm going to purl that stitch smaller and knit the last 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, now we're going to be working the 5th row before we start working our next cable row. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to purl. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to purl the next stitch, really minimizing that slack. And knit 1, 2, 3. We're still minimizing our slack too on these cable stitches. But you can see, I'm sorry, I've got this kind of upside down on the back, working from the back here. But I think you can see how it just kind of gives it that nice little pucker because of the purl stitch lays underneath the cables when we really make sure we manage that slack on the purl stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And our purl stitch. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then our purl stitch. There it is. One, 2, 3, and 4. And then our purl stitch. 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now we're going to be crossing our stitches again, and you can kind of see how it's getting ready for us to be crossing, isn't it? It's good. See that leaning back this way, because again, our first two stitches are going to be worked behind the following 2 stitches. So we're going to grab our 2 stitches here with the right hand. Then we're going to grab these 2 stitches with our left, make sure they're facing the right way, and cross them over one another. Then we are going to make sure that the working yarn, right where it exits, is going through that first stitch to minimize that slack, right? Okay, so there's that, and then here is the second front cable stitch. And now we're coming back to our 2 skipped cable stitches, which will be in the back of the cable. There's 1 and 2. And now we're going to purl our next stitch by bringing the yarn in front and purling that little stitch hiding out. Okay, now I am going to do that again. So we've got our 4 cable stitches right here. I'm going to grab the first 2 with my right hand, and then the following 2 stitches I'm going to pick up with my left. I'm going to cross those over. And now I'm going to put this here, grab this and my thumb, makes it easier to manage, and bringing that yarn right where it exits the previous stitch to work our loop. Same here. And then now we're coming to our stitches in the back on our right hand, and we're going to put it right up against where it comes out of that previous stitch to minimize our slack. Okay, and then we should have a little purl stitch hanging out. There that is. And we have our next 4 cable stitches right here. I'm going to grab the first 2 with our right hand, our fingers here. Okay, then I'm going to grab the next 2 with my left here, and I'm going to cross them over. Okay, I'm going to transfer this second stitch to my index finger on my right hand and this stitch to my thumb on my right hand, and I'm going to make sure that I'm taking the working yarn right where it exits that previous stitch and drawing this first stitch on my thumb right to where it exits, and I'm going to knit. And I'm going to knit that next front cable. Now we've got our 2 cables in the back, 2 cable stitches in the back. And again, right where that yarn exits the previous stitch, there's very, very little slack there. And same with this one. And then next we have our little purl stitch. Okay. Purl him pretty small. Go. And then we have our next 4 cable stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to take the first 2 in my right hand, then I'm going to take the next 2 in my left hand, and I'm going to cross them like so. Transfer that second stitch on to my index finger, transfer that first one to my thumb, and then I'm going to come here right where it exits this purl stitch and drop a loop on that first front cable stitch. And then I'm going to do the same with the second front cable stitch. And now we have our 2 back cable stitches that we'll knit, making sure that we bring the stitch right to where it exits the previous stitch so that we're minimizing our slack. And then we have our purl, our little purl stitch here in between. So we're going to make sure that's right where that yarn exits the previous stitch before we drop our loop. Place it back, and then we've got did you see that? That came undone. Did you see that? Even though I'm making, you see how big I'm making these stitches? Apparently not big enough. So that's what it looks like when it unravels. You just gotta redo it. It's no biggie. And this 1, 2, 3, and here we go, 4. So there's our 4 cable stitches that we're going to be working. So I'm going to grab those first 2 with my right hand and the next 2 with my left, and I'm going to cross them left over right. Transfer that second stitch to my index finger, transfer that first front cable stitch to my thumb, and make sure that I have the working yarn right where it exits that previous stitch, and we're going to knit that first cable stitch, bring that in, knit that second front cable stitch, and now we come to our back 2 back cable stitches. We're going to knit those as well. Now the reason that came undone is because I'm making this purl stitch so small and it's pulling on these cable stitches right next to them. So that may happen to you, but don't worry about it. All you gotta do is just put it back through the loop, right? Okay. So again, we're going to purl, and then we have our next 4 cable stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to grab the first 2 with our right hand, and we're going to grab the following 2 with our left hand. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing here. And cross left over right so that the left is in the front to have that left leaning cable. Transferring that second stitch to my index finger and then the first stitch to my thumb, and I'm going to bring this right where it exits the previous stitch and knit. And I'm going to knit that second front cable. Now I come to the back 2 cable stitches, and I'm going to knit those as well, making sure that I minimize the slack. And now we've got our purl stitch. There's another purl stitch, making it just a little smaller, quite a bit smaller actually. And now we have our last 4 stitches. Now at this point, you really don't need to grab your stitches the way I was doing it, because you can pretty much see now where your stitches are. But if you are new to this, if you're a beginner, I would recommend continuing, you know, to pick your stitches up with your fingers and keeping them on your fingers until you really get used to cabling, okay? So I'll continue to do this for all you beginner cablers out there. And see, what I did there was I transferred that second front cable stitch to my index finger on the right hand, and then the first front cable stitch to my thumb on the right hand. And I'm drawing this over to where it exits the previous stitch, and I'm drawing up my loop. Now I'm going to knit that second front cable stitch, making sure I don't turn the stitch, okay? Sometimes that's another really good reason to keep the stitches on your fingers, because sometimes it's really hard to see whether the stitch has turned and you don't want to twist your stitches, okay? So there is the first back cable stitch and the second back cable stitch, okay? So you are going to continue doing that for as many rows as you desire to reach the length that you want. But again, you can already see that it's stretching out, and it will continue to stretch just a little bit more as I go up in rows. The bottom does, and it just I don't know why it does that, but it just works out. It's something I learned when I started doing this hand knitting, because I didn't like how the foundation chain separated from the body of my work. And so that technique with the foundation chain and curling, you know, making sure you eliminate the tension really helps with that. And I think it just, you know, naturally kind of spreads out. Well, it obviously does, you know. So I want to see how long this is. Because again, so 25 stitches for me on this yarn gives me 45 inches. And okay, well, it's not too bad. This is at 42.5 right now. It might even get to 43, 44, maybe 45. I don't know. Well, there's 43. Yeah, it will definitely probably get to 44 at least, and probably 45 inches as I continue working up. So again, to continue in this pattern, you're going to work your cable stitch is always going to be coming on an even row, okay? So we just did the cable stitch, or the cable row, and we're going to work 5 more rows in the same pattern, knit 4, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, all the way across, okay? And we're gonna do that 5 times, 5 rows, and again, we'll end up on an even row. If you're not ending up on an even row, then you haven't worked the right amount of rows in between your crossover row, okay? So 5 between your crossover rows with 4 knit, 1 purl, okay? So I think that's it for today. I don't even know how long. Oh my gosh, an hour and a half. See, that's too long. I could have cut like half of this out. But anyway, here you have it. Sorry it took so long, and sorry for all the mistakes. That's what you get when you get me raw and unfiltered. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate you all. I'm just over 500 subscribers. I cannot believe it. I'm like so super stoked. And I'm waiting to get to my watch hours so that I can get to my first level of monetization, which will be really cool. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't even know how much, you know, I would really make on that, but it doesn't really matter because there are other things that I get to do, like, you know, share links and things like that that can help me promote some patterns and things like that if you're looking for patterns. So anyway, this will be really beautiful once it's all worked up. And you can see here on the edge, gosh, I'm supposed to be saying goodbye, aren't I? I can't help myself. You can see here on the edge how it's just kind of wrapping around, and it's going to continue to just wrap around along the edge. It's so pretty when you get it all finished up. Okay, so that's that. Thanks for watching, everybody. I sure do appreciate you all. Until next time.